All right, so we know now that the Howard Terminal saga will be dragging into 2023. And so now we know a new mayor, a new city council will end up deciding this. So I brought in the undisputed champ of East Bay politics, Steven Tavares. How are you doing, man?
Good morning, sir.
So is this thing done with? Are we doomed? Or is this thing over?
It's not done. I mean, it always can be done. That's the whole nature of this animal, right? You know, and it's just like baseball. Never get too high, never get too low. That's what I tell people. And maybe right now we're in a little bit of low period, maybe even feeling even lower. But you know, I follow Oakland and all these other races for even, you know, you're going to start looking in your ballot or at your ballot and your mailboxes, and you're going to start paying attention. But I've been paying attention before there was even candidates. So I've been kind of know the ups and downs. And if Howard Terminal has to go to 2023, and it probably is, probably more than probably, and I'm not sure that's that big of a deal. I think we'll pretty much see the same kind of lay of the land when it comes to who would vote on which way on the city council, the current one, and the potential incoming council in January 2023.
So they lose Libby Schaaf. She's been a big champion of the project here. So there will be a new mayor. We know that. She's termed out. Is it really a race between the big three, or is it a big two at this point between Lauren Taylor and Sheng Tao? Is Treva Reed in that mix? Is there anyone else that could possibly get this?
You know, that always could happen, right? Because it's ranked choice voting. So it always throws in a variable. But I do think, and I know Lauren Taylor wants it to be a two-person race, and I do think it's shaping up like that. You know, the finance numbers came out on Friday, and that always gives you a good sense of like how these races are going, right? It's kind of like looking at the standings in the newspaper. So you can get a gauge. Treva Reed really didn't fundraise very well in the last 2 months, and that would be the go time. The other, I would put maybe the wild card is Ignacio de la Fuente, who did really well, by far raised the most money than anybody in this 2 month period before the ballots arrive in your mailbox. He raised $165,000. So I would project this is the Sheng Tao and Lauren Taylor race to lose. And when it comes to Howard Terminal, those are probably the two people who would most be like Libby Schaaf in terms of supporting this and really being and I know she doesn't like this word, cheerleading this whole effort, but leading the effort too. So I think when you figure out the calculus for a vote next year in the city council, the mayor's race is the one you probably have to least worry about. That one we're probably, I would say 90% chance that we will still have that strong supporter in the mayor's office going forward.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. I mean, I've talked to Tao, I've talked to Reed, I've talked to Taylor. They all seem very reasonable. I know De La Fuentes has a ton of history with the A's ballpark situation and the Raiders and all that other stuff. So he's got a lot of experience. Yeah. So let's just dive right into city council then. I think I can officially project here and now that Fife and Gallo will be no votes. Is that fair?
That's it for forever. That's like death and taxes. They will be no. Well, actually, no. I won't say they could be one of them at the end of the day. If there's ever a vote, one would probably abstain. But that's the same thing, right?
That's a danger. That's a danger because to me, the abstention means you can't have the mayor do the tie break, swoop in and save this thing. So the abstention is actually worse than a no vote, in my opinion.
It could be. I mean, you're right. Like I do project next year that it'd be a little tight. There's not much leeway like there is right now. That's the one takeaway you could say, but it's still in a positive. I do think the swing vote we get too far ahead is Dan Cow next year and this year. So keep an eye on him, and I think he's actually he's kind of giving us hints, right, about what's going on right now. Wow, it's taking too long. And I do agree, looking at this just as not as a baseball thing, but just a giant public works project, it does seem too long. In my mind, I think of the night that Dave Cavill sent that tweet from the Las Vegas Knights game. That was the beginning. That was the day we all were like, okay, we're not going to be A's fans anymore. But we didn't say it. At least I did. So that's a long time ago. That's like what, April 2021. So this has been going on for a while. And he's the one with the backstop analogy. So I think that backstop is still going to need to be looked at even next year. But I think going forward, I think you're right. If you go down right now, I would say we have yeses tentatively with Dan Cow, Nikki Bass for sure.
Like she'll win re-election, right? Isn't she up for re-election here?
Yes, she is. But that one, that would be a miracle, especially that's not going to be ranked choice voting because there's only 2 people. That would be a miracle, possibly happen because the candidate's running really hard on her. But I don't think I don't think that's going to happen. Nikki Bass is a yes. Shing Tao would be a yes. Now Gaio's a no for sure. He's on no on everything. It appears. Taylor, Reed, and Kaplan. Then we say it's basically 5-2, 5-2. That's the right number. 6-2. So going forward, I think this is what I project. I'm not no favorites or whatever. Just what I see and how I've seen races over the last 12 years everywhere. This is a union town. This is a union county. If you have the union on your side, and you have pretty good fundraising, which is also coming from union helping, you're going to almost always win. And so I say that in this election, District 2, for sure Nikki Bass will win. Janani Ramachandran, I think, is going to win in District 4, and Kevin Jenkins in District 6. So Ramachandran and Jenkins would replace Tao and Taylor,
right?
Who can't go forward. They put it all on being a mayor because they would have been for sure reelected this year if they would have ran. This was their
they're out either way. They didn't choose to run for reelection of their own seat. That's what happened here. If Treva Reed doesn't win mayor, she can still retain her seat, right?
She'll be back.
So she stays. So we can dive into these a little bit more. Real quick though, you mentioned that Cavill tweet from the Golden Knights game, which happened while the A's were playing and while the Aviators were playing. He could have just tweeted from the Aviators and probably would have fared a lot better. But I remember responding to that. If you're not even going to bother watching the A's, why should any of us? Right? I mean, come on. That thing backfired spectacularly for him.
Yeah, well, that was last year. That was a good season. You were looking ahead into the future. Why should we watch?
So let's talk here real quick. Let's go back down. So Bass, reasonable. Presume a yes if the deal's fair. That's District 2. We think she's going to win. We'll jump to District 4. So you like Janani Ramachandran. Now that's an interesting one because I always thought she was going to be a no because early on she was sending all the tweets with the East Oakland Stadium Alliance port tour visits and she was a big no, but the labor unions endorsed her. And I don't think the labor unions would be endorsing anybody that isn't a yes on this project because the labor unions really want this thing built, right?
It's the 100%. You can be cynical about everything in government, but it's just a fact. And especially around here, if the Building and Construction Council of Alameda County, Alameda Labor Council is on your side, especially on this issue, you are 100%. You're 100% going to be for it. And that's why I think there'll be another vote. There's a wild card for next year because Rebecca Kaplan is the at-large council member and she's running for supervisor. I do project she wins. I do notice there's maybe some stuff going on. Maybe it could get tighter than it's supposed to be against a former Alameda council member, Lena Tam. But I think Rebecca Kaplan should win that. She won it by 10 in the primary, so now it's a runoff with Pam. So she wins that, then the council has to appoint somebody. So you already have the votes, you already have everybody here on the council, the future council that are backed by the Alameda Labor Council, building trades. It's suffice to say that they will, appoint somebody, and I don't know who, I've heard some names, that will be pro Howard Terminal to that at-large seat. So you can add that, and it's very important too. It's very
Yeah.
important because without that, I think right now you definitely got 4 votes in 2023, and you might have like 3 or unknowns in that. So you definitely need, there's a lot less leeway, but it's very doable. It's still very, very positive. I would think supporters and fans would still feel good about the next council, but but this is all labor. If you remember when this really started getting hot earlier this year, hot in terms of it was moving positively, it's when the labor council with Liz Ortega started showing up and really pushing all the members. They represent many just huge amount of union people. And then the building trades, of course, are going to build Howard Terminal, and that's going to be high paying jobs for many years over there. When they really started pushing the envelope, that's when this thing started looking like positive. And then when the wheels started moving to where we would think like, oh, hey, this is going to happen. Whereas before, I was seeing this was always going to happen. But a lot of people in the A's probably you could major critique that they didn't make it seem like it. So everybody was like, oh, I think the A's are moving already. Oh, the A's aren't moving. I thought they're going to Vegas. Therefore, you get 900 fans on the 3rd game of the year in April. So around that time, that's when we start seeing the positive thing. So I don't want to be cynical and have somebody say, see, even Tavares said it, but the unions do run everything, right? And
Yeah.
You can say you can say, and I would say, well, yes, but who are the unions people? So that's the situation here. But it would be I think going forward in 2023, I think Dan Kalb is very much he's the swing vote. Even going forward, I don't know where he would go. And he's a very wonky guy, and he will look at it. I think people should know that he will look at it with open eyes, without an opinion. But even him, hey, I'll throw in this too. Because you can say, hey, how about if these people get elected with the union's help? And then they get elected and they just do like Carol Fife, who also was a beneficiary. And then they turn their back on the project. Well, there's other ways. Maybe Dan Kalb, and I don't know anything. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out, but there's a big race for the state Senate in his area in 2024. Nancy Skinner will be leaving. Maybe he wants to do that. So he'd be wise not to turn his back on labor. So there's always something in politics that kind of makes you would think twice, right? And but it's well known, Carol Fife and Nikki Bass got their seats because their predecessor turned their back on labor. So people in Oakland that are elected officials, they know that there are ramifications. It's not just saying, we will take your seat. This has been taken the last 2 elections, 4 years ago and 2 years ago, it happened. So, it's known that you tread lightly with the union. So that's always something in the back of your mind, right? Again, I want to preface it. Don't be cynical. That's just the way it is, right?
And the labor unions were the ones that broke the big log jam with the Alameda County Board of Supervisors when they were waiting for the study, and labor said, look, we're not messing around anymore. Get this thing done. And that pushed it forward. So if we're going to look at, and honestly, the Janani Ramachandran, Nina Joyner, I think both of them are probably yes votes now at this point. If we look at District 6, which is Lauren Taylor's district, which he is not running for because he's running for mayor. You named Kevin Jenkins. He's the guy I have highlighted here. I think it's his to lose, and he seems to be very reasonable and pro Howard Terminal. I think what we should probably do too, because you've mentioned Kolb a couple times, is preface these by Kolb's a numbers guy. If the numbers make sense, he'll vote yes. If they don't, they'll vote no. And honestly, if the numbers don't make sense, everybody should vote no.
Right. Exactly. For sure. That's. I would tell everybody like, hey, it sounds like you're very Tavares. Even you probably get it too. Very pro one-sided on this. But I'll tell you, I'm here right. I believe in good government. That's why I get hard on people when I don't think they're providing good government or doing the right thing. So I would be the first one if this doesn't make any sense to be like, no, I'm done with it. I'm not going to. I'm going to raise the flag that this is something bad. And it's so far so good. The things can happen. This is government. So I tell people, like, you just gotta wait. Government is slow. Don't freak out, is what I always say. If you see me freaking out, I hear people freaking out, then it's time to freak out, right? And I did freak out when I saw that tweet, Vegas night tweet, but it pulled me back and said, okay, no, he's just playing around. He's just playing around. But I think just hold tight. I know there's a time now that's where we're seeing there's a shortfall, and it seems large, but there is so much. The government is awash in money right now, federal level and the state level. We have California is booming. The feds are just pouring money in. So everybody knows, every county, every city in Alameda County knows, if you're going to do something now, any public works or anything, do it now, because the money probably won't be there, in a year from now, a calendar year from now. So that's something that really buoys this project when there may be a shortfall, but they're getting it done.
Yeah, and it's only going to get more expensive the longer you wait, too. So
Yeah.
the money's there now. It's only going to get more expensive. I mean, they've raised about $320 million in grants, or they're close to raising that. Plus, they have a whole bunch more applications out there. So really, there was, I mean, it would have been hard for them to get this thing done before the end of the year once we started looking at the numbers and how much more expensive everything was. They're not going to know anything about that mega projects grant. The federal government works on their own time. They don't care about Howard Terminal deadlines. So moving into 2023 means, yeah, there's still potential to keep raising money. But I also think John Fisher and the A's need to maybe recognize that these hundreds of millions of dollars are sitting here for them in Oakland. And right now, Vegas isn't really biting or offering up any public funds.
Right. And I think that 300 million that they've raised, I think because, the story, the top line is it's not enough, but 300, I'm telling you, 300 million for a city to raise, that is unbelievable. That is like, there should be a parade. There should be a parade down Broadway that the A's did not have when they won the World Series.
In 89. Yeah, that's right. No parade because of the earthquake.
Yeah, I got gray here. So I remember.
All right, so let's do one quick rundown then. Mayor, you think probably Shang Tao, Lauren Taylor's race to lose?
Oh, I'm not supposed to guess. Yeah, I'm not getting a prediction on that. You got to wait for that newsletter.
All right.
But I do think.
But District 2, Bass, she's going to win. She'll be reasonable. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, District 4, you think Janani Ramachandran's probably got it here, but Nina Joyner also is reasonable, pro-HT, if the money's right, obviously, right?
I do think, but maybe we should talk about Janani. Is she ran for the assembly against Mia Bonta in the special election, and she was a defund the police person, and she was very much, as you spoke, against Howard Terminal. Now she run for city council, and she's totally like, we need more cops. And she has been saying, well, she hasn't gone overboard on Howard Terminal, but she's saying the things that, the right thing. Right? When she shows up all decked out in A's outfit and with her dad and goes to the game, takes a picture, giving signals. So I'm watching her. I'm very interested in her. I'm very interested in, maybe she's just very politically savvy, or is she a flip-flopper? So that needs to be in the back of her mind, that could she be one that flips when she gets to 2023? Because I have seen her on the campaign trail, kind of been sidestepping it until now, where I haven't heard anybody ask this. Now, if she was sidestepping it, basically, I probably won't have to vote on this if I'm on the council. But yeah, no, it looks like you are. You're going to have to vote. So
she's flipped. Maybe she flops. We don't know.
Yeah, so I put on my list here, I put a question mark. I put a question mark with Kalb and Janani Ramachandran. That's why I have like a 4-3, and then
And then Kevin Jenkins, District 6, Lauren Taylor seat. We got that one down as a tentative yes if the deal's right.
Yes, that one could be more sure. All right. That's on the on which one?
District 6, Kevin Jenkins.
Yeah. I think you could be very, very certain that he would be like his predecessor. I think his predecessor to Taylor, he'd be yes. And then you'd have that point, which is going to be a yes. Mark that down. Whoever's
check.
Mark that down. That would be like crazy if that didn't happen. And I've heard names, and I don't know that they're definitely they're not necessarily people who are like that we've known publicly to be like definitely Howard Terminal, but you know, politicians out there. One that was going to run for mayor, be a hint. That could be one. That could be a person that was.
All right, so we aren't looking at doom. We're not looking at doom just yet. No doom.
No.
Still glimmers of hope. I really did think if this ran into the election, it would be very bad. I thought if they didn't get the vote before the end of the year, it would be even worse. And that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, I think the bigger doom is when the A's like trade Shea Langoliers for a 12-year-old, more likely.
Never. They'll never trade Bangaliers. He's too good. He's gonna be the guy that ushers in the new era of A's baseball at Howard Terminal. Yeah. Shea Langoliers and the A's. I love it.
Let's hope.
All right. Thanks, Steven.
All right, man.